Joining me now to talk politics is Bill Vickery. He's a Republican strategist, occasional lobbyist, and host of the Sunday Morning Buzz on 103.7 The Buzz in Central Arkansas. Did I get all that right?
You're in the ballpark. You're close enough. That's the nicest thing I've been called today.
Really?
So, yeah, we'll go ahead, Rob.
All right. Well, we'll try to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Bill, let's begin with these poll results that we just ran in the previous block there. Big change in the medical marijuana numbers from where we were in late July. It was basically dead even at that point in time, and now you see the anti-group with a 16-point lead.
Yeah. Dare I say it, their grassroots happen to be a little better, but the puns are pretty fast and furious with this. But what I think you see there, though, is a realization from a lot of voters that this is on the ballot. We're going to be voting on this. It was in theory in July. I think that the Family Council and Jerry Cox have organized a pretty aggressive grassroots campaign. What will be interesting to see moving forward is the money that's going to come in the last 2.5 weeks to push on behalf of the medical marijuana issue. What does that look like, and can that move numbers? Awful hard to get a number below 50% where they can pass it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of law enforcement opposition to this too, and I think that the earned media that the folks that are opposed to this measure have gotten played a big role in moving those numbers.
And even in other states where you've seen this issue on the ballot, even in California and Oregon, it's taken a couple of runs. It's not fared well in its first trip to the ballot, and so this is its inaugural performance on the ballot in Arkansas. I think it'll be awfully difficult for it to cross the finish line. But I do see it. If it breaks 40%, I think you'll see the medical marijuana issue come back yet again.
I have actually heard, too, that if you are the first on television in a market when you're trying to push for this, that has a big boost for you, too. If you can get out ahead of the curve on that, do you think that if there is a big buy coming, and it looks like there is in terms of the supporters of medical marijuana, do you think that changes the dynamic?
Well, I think it could. I think it's awfully difficult. Look, it's tough sledding now for these folks because they've got to take a number below 50 and drive it down and see themselves move ahead of 50. Very, very difficult to do, especially within the last 3 weeks. But there's not a lot of clutter in Arkansas politics right now. Presidential campaigns sort of already been decided. We don't see any big statewide races. There are no statewide races.
Right.
And so you've got some congressional races, and frankly, I think they're decided as well. So it's an opportunity for them to maybe have a playing field that's completely empty and run with it for 3 weeks. We'll see what happens.
Well, we may actually poll that issue again just to be on the safe side on that. Another issue that's going to be on the ballot, issue number 1, half-cent sales tax for highway construction. The Trucking Association, which you're affiliated with, does not take, they're neutral on that position. Tell me how you think that is faring at this point in time. It has actually moved up a little bit in the numbers, not significant or substantially, but significantly.
It has. I think a lot of it is what people feel like that they're voting on when they head into the polls on Election Day. I'll say this, give them credit. If you had said pass a tax increase on a year when the Republican nominee for president will win overwhelmingly in Arkansas and all 4 congressional candidates are going to be Republican winners on Election Day and you could see both the House and the Senate flip, I don't think anyone would have ever predicted that a number for a sales tax increase could be in the mid-40s. So give that campaign a lot of credit. However, all that I just said will be in effect on Election Day. Yeah. And so that's a very, very tough hill to climb. You get a sense that the voter that's going to show up on Election Day in Arkansas is to some degree an angry voter, anti-status quo voter, and may not take kindly to a tax increase. But don't count these guys out.
Now, one of the interesting things about the highway tax campaign is there has been a couple of high-profile Republican endorsers of this. Senator John Bozeman, Lieutenant Governor Mark Darr. How influential do you think they've been with that base that you've just described?
I credit that to Madison Murphy, who's been a longtime member of the Republican Party in Arkansas, who has put his name on the line with this and really campaigned tirelessly on behalf of it. So, look, you got to give the guy credit for that. Still, having said that, it is an election where the president may peak above 35% here. You're going to see the Republican nominee, Mitt Romney, get 65, 68, maybe even 70% of the vote. Republicans win the House and the Senate for the first time ever. Republicans win all 4 congressional seats for the first time ever. That voter that's showing up, it's difficult for me to think that you're going to see a majority of them then pull the lever on behalf of medical marijuana and be on for its sales tax increase as well. But don't count these guys out.
All right, well, we'll see how that goes. Let's shift to another interesting topic in Arkansas politics this past week. We saw Dustin McDaniel, current Attorney General, Democratic announced candidate for governor in 2014, post a very impressive more than $1 million in his bid to be governor in the first 3 months. How impressive was that figure to you?
Yeah, look, I think it's very impressive. I think you got to credit the Attorney General. He's been very focused. He's made no bones about it. He's done something I think is very good. He was a rumored candidate. He's the rumored, heir in waiting, so to speak, for the Democratic Party. But he just went ahead and announced. Said, "Look, I'm in. Let's don't be coy with this." And so that's a different strategy than most have taken in the past. But it is working for him because he is focused on money right now and garnering endorsements, opinion leaders. That's where his campaign is focused. I do think, though, we're still 2 years away from that general election. Over 2 years away. It will be interesting to see what happens on Election Day here. If Republicans pick up the gains that it looks like they're going to pick up, if the generic Republican brand has the gains that you think is going to happen, then we may see this be the cap-off election for the Democratic Party. It might be very, very difficult to run as a Democrat statewide from now on because you're going to have a lot of legislators out there, a lot of congressional candidates, Senate candidates. They're all going to be Republicans, and the brand itself, Arkansas may truly have flipped and be a red state for sure.
We could see that, and that would be 2014. But I would caution that sometimes these things are pendulum swings.
Very much so.
You see things go back and forth. Well, let's speak to something else that you are at least touching around the edges on, and that is if there is some expectation that the Republicans will take the House and the Senate in Arkansas for the first time since Reconstruction. Do you not think that the Republicans are a little overconfident with that prediction?
Well, yes and no. Look, you never count your chickens before they hatch. I have been in many campaigns where I woke up the day after the election and thought, how did that happen? What just happened? How did we lose? And we are still 3 weeks away, but you do get a sense of momentum that's there. And I think what you see a lot in the Republican leadership, especially legislatively, pushing now for this to become a fait accompli, to cap off any last-minute fundraising that Democrats may do, to give it an air that the race indeed is over. And you do get a sense again, too. The presidential campaign's having a massive impact. Barack Obama has been an anvil around the necks of Democrats here in Arkansas and probably will continue to be. And as popular as our governor is, and he is very, very popular, I don't know that his involvement is going to translate to a lot of people showing up at the polls voting the Mike Beebe ticket as opposed to just voting against Democrats courtesy of Barack Obama.
And we've got some poll numbers that we'll be releasing later in the week on that. You know, it's interesting. I was in Northeast Arkansas earlier this past week and saw one of the biggest billboards I've ever seen in my life right outside of Cherokee Village, a Republican stronghold. It said, "Vote Republican. Every vote for a Democrat helps Obama."
Yeah.
That's the message, plain and simple, for Republicans to voters.
You have hit upon it. It is a devastating connection here in the state of Arkansas. It was in the last election cycle, and it is in this election cycle. And you got to wonder, too, if the president is reelected, does that make it even more difficult for Democrats to run 2 years from now? I think that's a factor. Obviously, we don't know, but that has been the single biggest piece of influence in Arkansas politics, I think, in probably almost 2 decades. It really had. The presidency, Barack Obama's presidency, has been the death knell for Democrats here in Arkansas.
But is it because of the racial element to it? Is it because of his politics? Because he has moved to the center when he took office, I think, to the chagrin of some of the liberal supporters that helped push him in.
Yeah, but you got those lefties. If he hadn't, anything he would have done toward the center that they didn't care for. Yes, look, I don't think the racial element is as prevalent as a lot of folks on the left want people to believe. They want to diminish the anti-Obama campaign as being racially biased, but that's not the case. This guy is a big government liberal in a state where we don't like big government liberals. That's just the way that it is. And he suffers, too, to some degree, being compared to Bill Clinton. You think about that. Nobody in Arkansas, at least, really thought of Bill Clinton as a big government liberal. That's why he enjoyed some popularity. They see this guy, and that's what he is. It's a killer for the Democratic Party.
All right. He is Bill Vickery. You can catch him on Sunday mornings from 9 to noon on 103.7 The Buzz. Thanks for being here, Bill.